My name is Natalie Osei. I'm 29 years old. 16 months ago, I was lying in a pre-op bed at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, counting ceiling tiles and waiting for a surgery I had spent 4 years saving for, when the billing coordinator stepped around the curtain and asked to speak with me privately. She had a clipboard. Her face was composed in the way that means bad news has been rehearsed. She told me that the $95,000 wire transfer that was supposed to have cleared 3 days prior, the one my parents had been managing on my behalf from the dedicated savings account we had set up together, had not arrived. I asked her to repeat that. She did. I lay there in a hospital gown with an IV in my arm, and I called my mother's cell phone. It rang 4 times. She didn't answer. I called my father. Same thing. The surgery I needed was to correct a spinal condition I had been diagnosed with at 22, a structural defect that caused chronic pain, limited mobility, and was going to get significantly worse without intervention. It was not optional. It was not cosmetic. It was the thing standing between me and a functional life after 30. And my parents had taken the money. What they did not know, what they could not have anticipated, was that 6 weeks before that morning, I had made a quiet change to that account. A very specific, very deliberate change that I had told no one about. Not my parents, not my brother, not a single person. They had no idea what was coming. Before I tell you what happened, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I love hearing from every one of you. Now let me take you back to where this started. Not at the hospital. All the way back. I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, in a house where love was real but money was a weapon. My father, Gerald, worked in insurance sales and made a comfortable living. My mother, Patricia, managed the household and, as I came to understand slowly and then all at once, managed the family finances in ways that served her priorities first and everyone else's needs second. My younger brother, Marcus, was quiet and easy to please. I was the one who asked questions. That was never a comfortable position in our house. The pattern showed itself early. In the small ways families telegraph their real values before you have the vocabulary to name what you're watching. When I was 13, I saved $340 from birthday money and a summer of lawn work to buy myself a new bicycle. The day I finally had enough, my mother sat me down and explained that the family needed help with a car repair that month. And wouldn't I want to contribute? Because that's what families do. I contributed. The bicycle never happened. I told myself it was fine. That families did things like this. I believed that for a long time. At 19, I was accepted into a pre-med track at Georgia State with a partial merit scholarship. I needed $7,200 to cover my first year's gap. My parents said they would handle it and told me not to worry. 3 weeks into the semester, I received a notice that my account balance was past due. My parents had deposited $1,800 and quietly redirected the rest toward a kitchen renovation they had been planning since the previous spring. New cabinets, quartz countertops, a farmhouse sink. I spent that semester working double shifts at a coffee shop, taking out a personal loan, and falling 2 weeks behind in organic chemistry before I caught back up. I paid that loan back over 2 years. I did not ask them to help. I told myself there had been some misunderstanding about the timing. I told myself they had meant to cover it eventually. I kept telling myself things that allowed me to stay in that house at Thanksgiving without feeling like I was breaking apart. The worst one, before everything that came later, happened the summer I was 24. I had been out of college for 2 years, working as a medical coding specialist, saving aggressively, living in a studio apartment with secondhand furniture and one lamp I was genuinely proud of. My grandmother on my father's side passed and left me $12,000, the only inheritance she had to give, specifically designated for me in her will. My parents offered to help me invest it wisely. I was 24 and I trusted them. I signed the paperwork and handed over the check. 8 months later, I asked about the investment. My father showed me a brokerage statement I had never seen before, from an account I had not known existed, with a remaining balance of $847. He said the investment vehicle had underperformed. He said these things happen sometimes. He said he was sorry. I sat with that for a long time. Something in me went very quiet, not angry, altered, like a calibration I would never fully reset. I opened my own accounts after that. Everything separate, everything solely in my name. I told them nothing. When I was 25, the spinal diagnosis came. My neurosurgeon, Dr. Amara Patel, was direct and specific. The defect was structural and congenital, likely undetected since childhood. Without surgical correction within the next 5 to 7 years, I was looking at progressive nerve damage, chronic pain escalation, and potential loss of lower body function. With surgery, a complex spinal fusion requiring a specialized team and a 4-day hospital stay, the long-term prognosis was excellent. The surgery cost $95,000 after insurance. I was 25 years old, earning $52,000 a year, with no savings beyond a modest emergency fund, and a body that was going to need $95,000, or it would eventually stop working the way a body should. I started saving the day I walked out of Dr. Patel's office. I picked up freelance medical coding work on evenings and weekends. I moved into a cheaper apartment. I cut everything that was not essential and a few things that were. Over 4 years, I accumulated $67,000 of my own money, applied for and received a $15,000 medical hardship grant from a nonprofit that supported patients with congenital conditions, and accepted a $13,000 contribution from my parents, who offered it voluntarily and whom I thanked sincerely, because at the time I believed in the version of them I needed to believe in. Total? $95,000. Exactly what I needed. My parents suggested they be added to the account to help coordinate payments with the hospital billing department. I was exhausted from 4 years of scrimping, and they framed it as support, and I said yes. That was November. By January, I had noticed something off. The balance was $400 short of what it should have been, then $900 short. Then, at the end of February, I pulled up the account and found a transfer of $3,200 to an external account I did not recognize. When I asked my mother, she said it was a temporary pre-authorization hold, that it would return within 2 weeks. It did not return. I did not ask again. I went home that night and I sat at my kitchen table for a long time without eating or turning on any lights. I thought about the $847 brokerage statement my father had shown me 5 years earlier. I thought about the $7,200 kitchen renovation. I thought about the bicycle I had saved up for at 13 and never received. I was not angry exactly. I was finished with being surprised. Those are different things, and understanding the difference changed what I did next. Instead of confronting them, I called my own bank on a Monday morning and asked to speak with someone about restructuring account access. The banker who helped me was a woman named Joelle. Calm, thorough, the kind of professional who explains options without editorializing. And she walked me through exactly what I could do. I opened a new individual account that same afternoon. I set up a careful transfer schedule designed to move funds gradually, in amounts that would not trigger an unusual transaction flag. Over the next 6 weeks, I moved $71,000 from the joint account into an account my parents had no access to and no knowledge of whatsoever. The joint account still held $24,000, enough to look untouched. Enough to look like everything was still in order to anyone checking casually from Nassau. Then I called Dr. Patel's billing coordinator, a meticulous woman named Sandra who had been managing my case for 3 years, and who, when I explained the situation in careful and specific terms, said simply, "Tell me exactly what you need me to do." I gave her the new account information. I told her the joint account was no longer the active payment source. I briefed her on what to confirm and what not to volunteer if my parents called the billing office, which my mother did, twice in the weeks that followed, both times receiving a reassurance that everything was on track, which was accurate, just not in the way my mother meant. I did not change the surgery date. I let everything appear to proceed exactly as planned. In the weeks after I moved the funds, I set up transaction alerts on the joint account. Every charge over $200 sent a notification to my phone. I did not enjoy watching it. That is something I want to say clearly. There was nothing satisfying about seeing those alerts come through. Each one landed with a specific kind of dull weight, the weight of a thing you suspected being confirmed one transaction at a time. But I needed to know. I needed the complete picture, documented, time-stamped, irrefutable. I watched what happened to the $24,000 my parents still believed was $95,000. A resort booking in the Bahamas, $6,400. Airfare for two, $2,100. A travel concierge service, $800. Spa reservations, $600. A private snorkeling excursion, $900. A restaurant I looked up that charged $280 per person for a tasting menu. By the morning of my surgery, the joint account held $3,847. They had spent $91,153 from what they believed was my surgery fund. They were in Nassau. My mother had posted a sunset photo the night before with the caption, "Life is short, live it." The billing coordinator came around my curtain at 7:40 in the morning and told me the wire had not arrived. I told her to wait one moment. I called my bank from that pre-op bed, authorized the transfer myself from my account, and the $95,000 cleared before 8 o'clock. The surgery proceeded on schedule. I went under anesthesia knowing exactly what my parents had done and exactly what they had failed to do. And something about that knowledge, the completeness of it, the way it required nothing further from me in that moment, made me very calm. The surgery took 6 hours. Dr. Patel said afterward that it had gone cleanly, that the fusion was solid, that she expected a strong recovery. I spent 4 days in the hospital and 6 weeks at home, and my best friend Kezia, who had known me since college and who knew everything, came and stayed for the first 2 weeks. She made soup and watched terrible television, and did not once say, "I told you so," even though she had told me so many times, about my parents, for years. On day 3 of my recovery, I did the thing I had been preparing for since February. My parents were still in Nassau. They had extended the trip. I logged into the joint account and removed myself from it entirely, leaving it in their names with its remaining $3,847. I wanted nothing from that account, and I wanted my name off of it permanently. Then I called Dr. Patel's billing office. The coordinator had held, per our arrangement, the complete itemized bill, the full $95,000 statement on hospital letterhead, every line item, every fee, the total cost of everything my body had required. Not the insurance version, the real version. I gave her my parents' new address. Not their home address in Decatur, their new address, the vacation property in Hilton Head they had mentioned at Thanksgiving, the one they had been talking about buying for 2 years. A place that a $91,000 fund might go a meaningful distance toward. The itemized bill arrived at their Hilton Head property on a Tuesday. Attached to it was a letter I had written during my 2nd week of recovery, propped up in bed with 3 pillows behind my back, writing slowly because I was still sore, and because I wanted every word to be exactly right. I told them what I knew. I told them what I had done. I told them the surgery had been completed successfully, and that I had funded it myself from an account they had never known about, and that the $91,153 they had spent was gone. There was no correcting it, no explaining it away, no version of events where we moved forward as if it hadn't happened. I told them I was not pursuing legal action, not because what they had done was acceptable, but because I had spent 4 years ensuring I would not need anything from them, and continuing to need nothing from them was more freedom than any court proceeding would return to me. I told them our relationship, as I had understood it, was finished. I told them that if they wanted to reach me, they could write a letter. Not a text, not a voicemail, a letter by hand that showed they had sat down and thought seriously about what they needed to say. Then I said one more thing. I said, "I am going to be fine. I want you to know that, not for your comfort, but because I spent 4 years afraid of what would happen if this surgery didn't come through, and it came through, and I did it without you, and I am going to be fine." My mother called 17 times the day the letter arrived. My father called 8. My brother Marcus, who had known nothing, called once. He sounded shaken and said, "Nat, I'm so sorry. I didn't know any of this." I believed him. I still believe him. I did not call any of them back that day. I wrote to Marcus 2 weeks later. He has been careful and present since then, in the way of someone who loves you and is genuinely ashamed of the family he came from, and who is working out what it means to be different without a clear model for it. We talk every few weeks. I am patient with him because he deserves that patience. My father sent a letter 4 months after mine arrived, 6 pages handwritten. Some of it was justification, some of it was genuine, I think. He wrote that they had told themselves the money would be replaced before I needed it, that they had convinced themselves the surgery could wait another year, that they had not let themselves fully understand, or had not been willing to understand, what the surgery meant for my actual life. I read it twice. I kept it. I have not responded yet. I am still deciding what I want to say, and whether saying it would serve anything, and what I actually need from him at this point, if anything. Those questions deserve time, and I am giving them time. My mother has not written. I am 16 months post-surgery now. I walk without pain for the first time in 7 years. I ran a 5K in October. Nothing competitive, nothing impressive by any objective measure. Just me on a road in the early morning with the sun not fully up yet, making my legs work in a way I had not been certain they would ever reliably work again. I cried somewhere around the 2-mile mark. Not from effort, from something more like wonder. From the specific, quiet disbelief of a body doing what it was supposed to do. Dr. Patel had warned me that the emotional recovery would take longer than the physical one. She was right. There were months where the fury about what my parents had done would surface at unexpected times. In a grocery store line, in the middle of a work call, at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. I let it move through. I didn't perform peace I wasn't feeling. I waited for the real version, which arrived more slowly, and was more durable than anything I could have manufactured. I still live in Atlanta. I have a better apartment. I have rebuilt my savings in accounts that exist only in my name. I see a therapist every other week who has helped me understand that what my parents did is not a statement about my value. I have Kezia, who calls every Sunday. I have Dr. Patel, who sends a card on my surgery anniversary every year. I have a body that works. I want to be clear about something because clarity matters to me. What my parents did was take money set aside for their daughter's medical care and spend it on themselves. That is the plain fact of it. I will not soften it to make anyone comfortable, including myself. For a long time, I looked for a more charitable explanation. A miscommunication, a plan that had simply gone wrong. And the honest truth is that the alerts on my phone told a different story. The resort, the flights, the concierge, the tasting menu. Those were not emergencies. Those were choices. If you are someone whose family has treated your needs as negotiable, as things that can be deferred or redirected or quietly spent on something they wanted more, I need you to hear this plainly. Your needs are not negotiable. Your health is not a resource others get to manage on your behalf. You are allowed to protect yourself before the crisis arrives. You are allowed to build something they cannot reach, and to do it quietly, without announcement, without asking permission. And if they take the thing anyway, if they get to the account first or lose the investment or redirect the check, you are allowed to survive it without them. You are allowed to fund your own recovery, in every sense of that phrase, without waiting for them to come through. They may never come through. You don't have to wait. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. If this story meant something to you, please like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to quietly protect yourself from the people who were supposed to protect you first? What did that look like? And how did you find your way through? Drop your story below. I read every single one. Until next time, your life is yours to fund. Don't let anyone else hold the account.